favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment period. Okay, nothing over here.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Williams, a land use planning consultant working with Houston County residents opposed to silica sand mining. I wrote the Fillmore County silica sand mining ordinance that was approved by that county in 2012. I am here to speak about Tracy Erickson's application for a mining permit. Rick Frank has pushed you into thinking that Erickson's application must be processed immediately because of the 60-day rule. Rick Frank is wrong. The 60-day rule has not begun to start running. Erickson is a part of the Minnesota Sands EIS that is pending before the Minnesota EQB. By law, the county cannot issue a permit to Erickson as long as environmental review is pending. The EQB has not decided to release Erickson from that obligation. I met yesterday in St. Paul with Will Seufert, the executive director of the EQB, who told me point blank that the EQB has made no decision on Erickson's request to be released from this pending EIS. And in fact, he said that it's probably going to be the EQB board that will make a decision on what to do about Erickson's property. Rick Frank has sent the EQB documents trying to help Erickson, but the EQB has not made any decision, and Rick Frank knows it. Yet Frank persists in letting you think that Erickson is now able to obtain a mining permit from Houston County. It's not Rick Frank's job to help Erickson get released from the EIS. It's Erickson's job to get himself released from this EIS and to prove it to you, to prove it to Houston County. Don't let Rick Frank misrepresent the Erickson situation in his zeal to support Erickson's permit request. I urge you as a board to get your land use attorney, Jay Squires, to find out if Erickson is released from environmental review and to inform you definitively and directly. Frank is too close to this thing. Find out for yourselves. I might also remind you that you ordered an EAW environmental review of Erickson's property a year ago that was not completed because environmental review was transferred to the EQB. Even if the EQB releases Erickson from that EIS, Houston County will still be obligated to complete that EAW. Thank you.
Donna Buckby, Yucatan Township. I was asked by some planning commission people and one or two of you commissioners to show Judge Walter's decision about the Erickson mine and also Tracy Erickson's ex parte communication with Judge Walters. But I know that instead of having to bring you copies of this, I know that my neighbor Brian Van Gorp emailed you each a copy of this, so I will give the press my copies here, but I wonder why you would need to get this information from citizens or a goat farmer like myself instead of from paid staff. That seems kind of strange already. But I would just highlight one sentence from Judge Terrence Walters' decision and ruling, and he said, of course, the enforcement of the moratorium also means that there will not be more limited mining and extraction which have gone on at various times since 1992. So this refers to what had been going on. This isn't just about frac sand mining, it's about any kind of mining going on that property until this is decided. And then Tracy Erickson sent an ex parte communication to Judge Terrence Walters trying to get him to change his mind about what he really meant about any kind of mining on that land. And the judge sent this back. He said, the court is returning the letter you sent to the judge in regard to the above matter. This type of request must come through your attorney. The court is sending a copy of this. Anyway, so this was hand-handed contact on the part of Tracy Erickson to try to persuade the judge to change his ruling, but the judge did not change that ruling. So, thank you.
Brian Van Gorp, Houston Township. Well, I hope you've had enough of being manipulated and lied to and misled regarding this Erickson mine thing. It's pretty obvious that Erickson knew that this was an illegal permit, or he wouldn't have written that letter to the judge trying to get him to change it. And it's pretty obvious that your planning and zoning administrator knew that as well. If he didn't, it was his responsibility to know that. That's his job. Especially when this permit has already been refused for the same reasons prior. This all started about two years ago or more, when first of all Tracy Erickson tried to mine silica sand for frac sand use without a permit to do so. Then he violated the moratorium. Then he sued the county. And in the process of all this time, he violated his permit conditions 4 times. And we have witnesses that will document that. And now this is a second attempt to get this permit approved illegally. Now, I know you can't vote on this right now because you're not the regulatory governmental unit. But when you can, I hope you do vote on this and give him the vote he deserves, which is to deny this permit. Quit enabling this crappy behavior on the part of county employees and vote to deny this permit and put an end to this charade. Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Ken Jumper from La Crescent Township. I want to just reinforce and reiterate everything that's been said here so far in regards to the Erickson Quarry permit. You know, it's quite clear that that permit was limited and it has expired. I'm particularly concerned about that. You know, I think we've seen a whole series of misinterpretations by Bob Scanlon, the zoning administrator, about that permit. Keeps escalating into more problems for the county about this. And I want to say something that maybe no one else has said. In Winona County, where the Nesbitt Quarry has opened under the pretense of providing agricultural sand, people have investigated where that sand is going. In fact, it's actually being loaded on railroad cars and being shipped someplace else, probably not for agricultural sand. We have the same concern here with the Erickson Quarry, that mining may occur here under the pretense of creating agricultural sand bedding, and ultimately, in the not very distant future, it'll be used for frac sand. Once that starts to occur, it's going to be really easy at some point in the future to say, well, you know, we're already doing this, why shouldn't we just you know, make it real obvious that we're doing frac sand mining. We do not want frac sand mining to occur in this county, and the only way we're going to prevent that is by having some really sound policy making that starts with the county board, not with the zoning administrator making questionable interpretations about old permits. So, you know, please consider denying any extension of this permit for the Erickson Quarry. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelly Stanich from Houston Township. I noticed, Teresa, that you were at the EQB meeting on Wednesday, and I commend you for attending that meeting. I hope you did hear at that meeting when the lobbyist of the Minnesota Industrial Sand Council acknowledged the fact that prohibition of frac sand mining is one of the options available to local governments. I am seeing if I can find on video that segment where he said that. I'm not sure whether the EQB was recording that or who the camera was in the back, but if I can get that, I'll get it to you. Secondly, I also hope that you heard several times when the Florence Township ordinance was mentioned. That is a ordinance that has been in effect It was instituted, I believe, last year, and it does specifically prohibit all frac sand mining, all industrial silica sand mining, I should say, in Florence Township in Minnesota. To my knowledge, and again, I'm checking on this, they have not been sued. So it's one example of a prohibition that has actually been done. And once again, I commend you for going to that, and I look forward to seeing you there at more of them. Thank you.
Unfinished business. Frac Sand Updates,
You have a meeting yet?
probably under commissioner report.
Yeah, we can cover into that.
Okay,
Sure.
unless you want to bring it up now.
Doesn't matter. We can, it pertains, I guess. So yesterday, we had the first frac sand ordinance writing committee meeting. Everything went well. I think everybody was there except for one person. Otherwise, it was pretty good turnout. Things went well. Mainly just discussed the base for how the committee is going to be conducted, their expectations, formats, and how things are going to get, I guess, get consensus. I guess what is our how do we go about it? You know, how do you come to a consensus? Are we voting, or is it just going to be a, if we don't come to a consensus, you know, all that kind of stuff. I took some notes just so that we could run through it real quick. One of the things we talked about was a facilitator to conduct the meeting, somebody from the outside, just to maintain some structure in the meeting, make sure that everything keeps going smoothly, where we don't keep getting off tangent and wasting time on other discussion or other topics. The name that had gotten tossed around was Naomi Frichty, which Frank had contacted or whatever, so looking at her, and actually, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, she was a former extensions person for quite a while, correct?
Yes.
And it has some experience with facilitating meetings and stuff, so she was going to get talked to about if she would be willing to do that. Also talked about getting some maps from Dan Cheska, which I went down to his office and he was not there, he was out, so I'll have to get in touch with him, or if you see him. Just getting some maps that kind of outline the county, trout streams, topographical maps, sand deposits, geography, buildings, feedlots, that kind of stuff, just so that we'll have it at the meeting so that we can have something to go by. We also talked about if there wasn't a consensus that we'd bring two options forward with reasons and justifications, so that we can, anybody reading the document would understand that there's two options, that there wasn't a consensus to it. And that we talked about bringing in other professionals when needed. If we had issues that we couldn't resolve, questions, we bring in outside professionals to help us come to a consensus. We also talked about making sure that we've got decisions being made from scientific data and having not having a lot of decisions based on speculation. Also, we talked about just referencing EQB documents, documents from Fillmore County, other nearby counties too, to help us kind of go through that. And we were going to have the next meeting was going to be Monday the 7th at 9. Let's see. And then we had talked about having maybe Holly come and take notes or minutes, just so that we have something that if somebody had a question on something that happened prior, we'd have some sort of record so that we could go back and review, or if something was said and you're like, oh, didn't we talk about that, we would at least have something to go back on. One of the other things that was brought up, actually I think Teresa brought it up, I think it's a good idea, we had a lot of discussion, I think everybody at the committee was in favor of it. We're talking about continuing on with a parallel committee for banning language, to just come up with something so that you have two options and keeping that ball rolling. The board had asked Jay to continue to look into that issue, and like I said before, I think Teresa brought it up, and we had kind of, I guess, a consensus on continuing with that. So that's pretty much,
It was a good
Brief
meeting.
rundown.
It was a real productive meeting, I thought. We
Yeah.
set guidelines and
yeah.
procedure and format, and that's a good start.
Well, there's good people, I think it's, I think it'll be good, it'll be good. And I guess with that too, since we're talking about, I guess, formally, I would make a motion that the board put together a committee or a group of people to keep that banning language going down the road and make sure that that's also being continued on.
Can't that be done in the same committee?
We talked about that. The issue that we're talking about with that is that we'd like to have one committee focus on one thing. And so we've got the ordinance writing committee that's
An ordinance
focusing
committee
on it.
and a non-ordinance?
Yeah.
Or a ban committee?
I would agree with that, there should be a parallel committee for banning it. We should have, it's not saying we're not making a decision, we just should have that ready to go as an option when we vote on that. And I would second Justin's motion.
And it's not, and just to make it clear, it's not a committee that's determining whether you should or not, it's just coming up with language. And we had talked to Jay about continuing down that road as far as having something so that when we come to a public meeting, we're gonna have two options. And so that was being discussed, so that's
Because
why.
if you didn't like the proposal on the one you're doing now, the one that would regulate it, it would probably be too late to then start a banning ordinance.
We need to have
It'd be too late.
regulations, though. We did
You're moving it
either
down the
way.
road too much.
Either way, because
Right.
if the ban would get thrown out in the long run, we need a backup. We can't just go back to our old construction.
Mhm.
No.
So we definitely, this committee that met yesterday is just going to work on regulating it.
Right.
So I
And
think Justin and I
So
said,
Who would be on the other?
On the banning.
Well, that's something I have for discussion and figure out what, I know we've got, last time we talked to Jay, he had asked if he wanted, or if we wanted him to continue on with looking into that from the legal aspect, and we said that he should. So it'd be nice to have some people, two commissioners, and
I think we need to do a little more research about
Yeah.
who would be on it
Yep.
and what Jay
I think
says.
we can
If we
bring it
need to
back
do
next
this
week or
or
something.
bring it back next week. But
But I would
there's a
like-
motion on the floor right now, but,
yeah, we can vote on that, sorry.
so. I personally would like to table the motion for another week. Can you do that? We probably need to act on the first motion,
can I ask you why you'd like to table it?
because I don't think we have enough information. Who would be on this committee, what Jay would say as far as format of that committee. I mean, we don't even know, to say we're gonna establish a committee when we don't even know where we're going yet. I think we got enough going right now with the committee we got going.
I think well, I guess the motion is that we agree that we will start a committee and we can restructure how that committee would be set up or who would be involved after talking to Jay. So that's, my motion is just strictly that we start a committee, I guess, just to clarify.
Okay. Further discussion?
Can I call for a vote?
Roll call,
Do you want to
sure.
do that? Roll call?
Sure.
You want a roll call vote?
District 1? Judy?
No, I think we should wait.
District 2?
Aye.
District 3?
Aye.
District 4?
I'd rather wait, no.
District 5?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
And Rick, we talked too about, should bring this up to maybe having a phone conversation with Jay at some time to update the board, kind of what's going on with, I guess, we can talk about this committee and stuff too at that time, but as far as Erickson's and stuff like that, kind of fill us in on some stuff. Is it possible, be like next Tuesday or even the following to get something going with Jay and have a teleconference just to bring us up to speed?
Sure, I can have that arranged.
Would you guys want to do it just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page with, we've got,
We talked about that before, you were gonna get hold of Jay when we,
yeah.
you wanna do it, check and see if next week or the following week would work?
And you want to cover both the Erickson and the,
Yeah, because I think we need to, you know, there's a
And-
lot of questions that we've got. I think
Yeah.
that it'd be nice to be able to hear it straight from the horse's mouth and say, okay, where we, you know, and a lot of questions that we've got for him as far as,
okay.
so.
I will talk to him and see if I can line that. Would about 10 o'clock be,
I think 10 o'clock
Yeah.
would be okay, and just let Shar know which week works for him, or.
okay. I'll arrange that.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know if you, anything else, Teresa, I missed on that committee?
No, that's fine. Anything on the highway department, did you meet?